Hey everybody, Bobby Morano here, posting my review of the content in Unit 2 for secondary general music practices. So, there was a lot of information in this unit that I thought was interesting. First off, I've never heard anyone actually define informal versus formal teaching, and I really enjoyed learning about that. I found out informal teaching is something I do quite often, and I like that the end goal is really broad and the results are varied based on different activities. So, for instance, in my bass guitar, piano, and drums class, which I do with high school students, I do this activity where I try to have students learn a song by ear, and I talk about the different methods you can use for checking yourself. Like finding the tonic, starting there, establishing the key, or listening for the harmonic makeup. Can you find the bass line? Can you hear where the notes are moving? And then just listening to chord color or quality, and just trying to figure out songs that based off of that criteria. But due to the variability of my students in this class, some can do it really, really well. Like some can do it in one class period, and others pretty much can't get it at all. There's always a couple kids that really just, they're just taking the class to learn these instruments. They don't excel in music, and I'll try to guide them as best I can, but a lot of times if I didn't pretty much put their fingers where they need to go, they wouldn't be able to figure out a lot of these songs. So that's always kind of bothered me because I always thought, I really like how it works for my high flyers, these kids where I'll see them a couple months later figure out songs by ear still, using techniques that I taught them. And I really like that, but for the kids that don't get it, I just feel like they get nothing out of the activity. And I always think if an administrator walked in, how would I quantify that? So to me, it is messy. It definitely is messy. But that actually was in the exact definition used for informal learning. And that was comforting to me because I really like that activity, but I've thought about throwing it out just because, it's hard to quantify students' process. It's hard to assess how well they actually do because, it's so based on just your natural musical ability. But I really like informal teaching. I like the stance of the teacher's role, how we just kind of step back and really tap into student interests. Because I think music's unique in that aspect. We really can use students' interests to teach. You can do that in other classes, but say, for instance, a math class, it's a lot harder to tap into your students' interests and use it in the same way we can with music. So I really like the idea of listening to students and listening to what they actually want to learn. And this actually got me thinking about once I was reading about musical futures and stuff and seeing how excited all the kids were for class. I was thinking, why is it that kids like gym class so much? And I came to the conclusion it's because they get to guide the activity. A gym teacher tells them what they're going to do. They kind of set things up, and then they let the kids go, and they get time to basically socialize, even though they're still, being active. And I know that gym is different than music, but wouldn't it be cool if music could be that way too? Because we've got kids in schools that want to be in ensembles, and we've got kids that just don't. They just, maybe they don't want to do music at all, but maybe they enjoy it somewhat. But if we could create that kind of atmosphere where they're going in, they're guiding the learning, and they're having fun, maybe general music class could be as much fun as gym. But I'll talk about that some more later. So I looked in Freedom in Musical, and the activity I chose to review was the blues improvisation in G on page 28. I was interested in this because I do something like this with my middle school guitar unit, but my activity was different than the activity in this book. So basically, in this activity, students learn a simple blues scale, 12-bar accompaniment, partner up, and they practice with their partner, and then they test with me. And I do this so that, they get to work with their friend and, practice their guitar, but then they can test with me because I don't want them to feel, like they have to act too cool or whatever. They're just, 7th and 8th grade students. So I was interested to see how I could modify that based off of what this article said. So in their activity, it says break students up into sections, and this caught my attention immediately. So it says, have students in a rhythm section, harmonic section, and melody section. And I like this because a lot of times you get students that really don't want to improvise in front of others when it comes to like a melodic improvisation. And I don't want people to dread this activity. I want music class to be fun. So I think this could be used as a way to differentiate. Kids that kind of want to be in the background could be a harmonic or rhythmic instrument rather than a soloist. Just kind of a way to. I like that you have that option. So anyways, you break students up into the rhythm section and the harmonic section and melodic section, and then you put them in a circle. And then rhythm section starts it off. And I thought this was funny in the book. It said, have students kind of deliberate whether they should accent beats 1 and 3 or alternatively 2 and 4. And I was like, obviously 2 and 4. Come on, who wants to jam out to 1 and 3 being accented? So, anyways, start with the rhythm section. Then you have the harmonic section start with the 12-bar blues. Eventually, the bass joins in, which I have guitars and I have pianos and percussion instruments in my classroom, but I wouldn't have a bass, so that wouldn't apply to my class specifically. But even though the one point that the book made, which I like, was even though these parts are the accompaniment, they can still improvise rhythm, and I think that that's a cool way. Students can kind of have a little bit of fun with it and not just kind of be sitting there going through the motions. And then finally, you have the melodic section join in, and they can start with just 2 or 3 notes first, and eventually build off that and try some different intervallic combinations. And so you jam out. You can have students switch around if you want. It depends if you want to differentiate, like I was saying earlier. And just have some students switch or whatever you want to do. And then afterwards, you have the students discuss the activity. What do they listen to already that sounds like the music they were just playing, and what do they associate with the blues? And I like that again because you're drawing in students' outside interests and seeing what they took away from the activity. I also really like the musical features site and resource packet. I think it's really revolutionary, as I was saying before, just reprioritizing how we teach general music. It's a crazy concept to think that for years, all that music teachers have been doing is teaching these kids in their general music classes what they learned in music school, without ever asking these kids what they want to learn, and then wondering why kids don't like general music the same way they like gym. Now, I guess that one fear of mine would be, this class is so, it's so free and open for the kids to kind of lead the activity. And just getting your administration to really view it as a viable alternative to what we currently have as general music, which is much more structured and maybe not as fun. And I think that, as I was saying before, how do you quantify students' progress? How do you really know that they're learning and getting better if it's just something they don't quite have a knack for? And I know that's kind of a pessimistic outlook, but just I would be afraid that an administrator would ask me that about a certain student and I wouldn't have a good answer. So that's one fear of mine. And another, and this is interesting, is that I wouldn't want students in my ensemble to look at my general music class and say, hey, that looks a lot more fun than what I'm doing in this ensemble. Because I definitely think that that takes more patience and it takes a little more hard work, a little more focus than just kind of having the ability to go off and work on your own, learn a song with a band. That's a different style of activity. And I have a true love for chorus, and I also love playing in bands and learning music, but I just wouldn't want to lose any ensemble students to my general music, and how would I defend that to a student? So that would be my fears. But all in all, as I was looking down the list of things that a musical futures teacher should be willing to do, I was like, I would love to do that. I already do that. So I think that. Really looking at some of the stuff that I've been doing that I didn't realize was already happening. Some of the, I'm really looking forward to figuring out how to refine some of my current lessons and make them maybe a little bit more easy to assess or just, guide. So, thanks for watching, and talk to you soon.